The year is 1622 and the weather is chilly and stormy just off the Florida coast. An anxious Spanish cargo ship is frantically attempting to return to Spain with a cargo of precious metals. Unfortunately, it sails straight into a hurricane as it crosses the Florida Straits. The Atocha is sunk in a matter of minutes when the waves tear its masts apart and take off its rudder. Evidence indicates that a treasure valued at $500 million vanished that night, with no one ever discovering its whereabouts. The mother lode of all treasures was not found until over 300 years after it had been dormant at the bottom of the ocean, and its value exceeded all expectations. We reenacted the entire event to demonstrate how a team of independent treasure hunters dedicated decades to searching for the ship, and how their innovative engineering and a long-lost document ultimately led them to the discovery of the most valuable shipwreck ever discovered. On that tragic night, the Atocha went down in the Florida Keys, a chain of small islands stretching over 200 miles. It washed up on a shallow reef there. The ship's whereabouts were known at that moment. However, the ship was shattered a few weeks later by a second hurricane, which deposited a path of wreckage across the ocean bottom. It appeared as though the Atocha's whereabouts would remain a mystery indefinitely, but word of its wealth would endure. Its cargo manifest said that it was transporting over 50 chests of money, as well as 150 bars of gold and 1,000 bars of silver. Finding the treasure would result in a windfall of at least $500 million in today's money. American treasure hunter Mel Fisher was brought in for that exact reason. He had been scuba diving for as long as anyone can remember, and he and his wife owned a diving school in California where over 60,000 individuals learned the sport. Mel and his family traveled across the nation in pursuit of the Atocha, a treasure buried in the Florida Keys. They set out on a boat equipped with metal detectors to search the Matecum Keys, a location that had been referenced in multiple documents. Despite traveling over 100,000 miles in a year of seeking, they came up empty-handed. Finding the Atocha in such a huge ocean seemed like an insurmountable effort to many. Historian Eugene Lyon, though, was Mel's hidden weapon. He sought out this document in the Spanish archives in Seville in his quest to discover the exact location of the Atocha's sinking. More than 100 miles away from Mel's search location in the Marquesas Keys, it indicated a search that had taken place only 4 years after the ship went down. Without hesitation, Mel and his team repositioned their boat and immediately began their search in this new area. However, divers were now looking in deeper water, and visibility was a major obstacle. The divers could not make out their hands in the murky water below, although the surface water was perfectly clear. Mel then devised a brilliant yet easy-to-implement solution. He fastened 2 large tubes to his boat, allowing him to lower them ahead of the propellers. These would divert the surface water's clarity and send it crashing to the ocean below, where the divers could find more treasure. The filthy waters were instantly cleared, and an extra bonus was that it dug a big hole, exposing whatever was under the sand. In 1971, sand cleared the beach, revealing a massive anchor. It wasn't a genuine treasure, but it was their initial indication that maybe the genuine thing wasn't far behind. Cups, swords, cannonballs, and iron nails that had held the ship together were among the objects that began to surface. To maintain tabs on everything, they began to construct a map of circles that indicated the whereabouts of all the treasures. A distinct line began to emerge on the map after some time, and they deduced that this line must contain the Atocha's mother lode. The crew's search for the Atocha saw them tracing a trail of relics that appeared to point to the ultimate treasure trove. However, the crew had not made any significant findings after 2 years of exploring the line. If Mel didn't discover riches soon, he would be unable to continue his search because his funds were running low. On the other hand, in 1973, the crew discovered 3 massive silver bars and a cache of silver coins within 100 feet of the bow. It was unclear whether this artifact belonged to the Atocha or her sister ship, which also went down that night, but it was worth more than $100,000 alone by itself. Consequently, they revisited the ship's cargo manifest. This paper meticulously documented the weight and serial number of each and every item of gold and silver. They verified that the Atochas were the true owners of the treasure trail by comparing the document's engravings to those on the silver bars. In order to gain money, the crew started electrolysis cleaning the coins in a methodical manner and then sold them. It was business as usual for Mel and his crew. The group, now flush with cash and equipped with cutting-edge sonar technology, set out to unearth even more wealth. Mel began to fight back when the state of Florida claimed possession of all the unearthed riches, just as they were gaining traction. The crew's discoveries on the line persisted, with 9 bronze cannons bearing Atocha insignia carved into their barrels standing out. Unfortunately, Mel's kid was one of 3 crew members killed when their boat sank the night after they discovered the cannons. After 3 years of searching, the team realized the line had gone empty and stopped receiving any further signals. Mel had brought up an enigmatic document he had read, penned by one of the Atocha's survivors, multiple times during the search. The letter states that the survivor assisted an admiral in concealing 70 pounds, ca 32 kilograms of the most exquisite Colombian emeralds into the ship. Although Mel's source for this information remained a mystery, he was certain that the Atocha's treasure contained more than simply metals. While all was going on, Mel finally prevailed in court after 8 long years of fighting for his right to all of the treasure. But Mel had already spent over $6 million on his search for the Atocha by the decade's conclusion, and the legendary treasure still hadn't materialized. It appeared as though the treasure must have been concealed somewhere down the line, as every small object encountered had tantalized the crew. However, that was going to change soon. In 1983, the crew's magnetometer began to light up as they were making their way to the line. Divers conducting a routine inspection discovered several metallic objects in an area southeast of the line. When these were plotted on the map, a second line began to emerge, diverging from the first. A month after the ship went down, it was known that it was torn apart. Therefore, it was probable that the wreckage was moved in a different direction. After a couple of years of following this new path, they still found little wealth. Afterwards, a big but faint object appeared on their sonar scanner on July 20th, 1985, precisely 10 years after the terrible deaths of the 3 crew members. It was soon sought after by 2 divers who dove into the water. Greg Wareham followed his intuition and strayed around 100 yards to the east, and lo and behold, it was there. He was confronted with an 80-foot-long shipwreck that rested atop numerous stacks of silver bars. Coins and gold bars glittered in the light from a number of chests off to the side. Mel and his crew had undoubtedly located the mother lode after 16 years of searching. Amazingly, an emerald the size of a thumb, with a value of more than $800,000, was found stashed away in the ruins. Another one, this one valued at more than $1 million, surfaced in another part of the debris. It was eventually proven that Mel's story was accurate, as over 2,000 of the most exquisite uncut emeralds were found.